Hello everyone, this is part 33 of What If Naruto Was a One-of-a-Kind Genius, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. I thought you were going to raise hell with Orochimaru, Sasuke said to Naruto. He was leaning against a tree trunk, staring at the blonde Uzumaki, who was standing motionlessly, with his face looking above. With how ticked off the blonde had been when they met, Sasuke had really thought that the battle was going to be won. But there hadn't been much difference in the way Naruto fought. The blonde hasn't always been the one who liked long battles and throwing jutsus in all directions. Always direct to the point and nothing more. When he was using his mouth, then things were a little different. You make it sound as if I'm very much used to violence and have a thing for brutality, Naruto responded. Sasuke shrugged. Despite saying otherwise, you have always been brutal, in both your actions and words. Naruto said nothing to this. Let us move back to Konoha. I want to be there by the time Sai returns with a certain Uzumaki, the blonde said before turning towards the direction of the hidden leaf. It was a good moment. No, it would be a good moment when he does see another redhead walking into the Uzumaki compound. Now, they could think about recreating the Uzumaki clan, return to the glory days of the once peace-loving clan of energetic people. It was truly a pity that the clan had been done injustice by the nations who felt threatened by their power. It wasn't a thought that Naruto really wanted to dwell on. Not because of the thought of vengeance. Still, it was just a couple of members and there was no way Nagato was going to be living anywhere close to them. The man was focused on peace and peace only. It would be a good thing if he could leave an Uzumaki child behind. That child would certainly be blessed with power. As far as things stand, there would only be 3 of them, excluding Yugao. She wasn't Uzumaki nor was she married to him. She would probably think about it, but that wasn't a thought Naruto had when things were like this. You must be happy knowing that you can finally see another Uzumaki, Sasuke said. If we start well, we may have some influence in what happens in the hidden leaf. The Uchiha will grow strong again, that is certain. When that happens, we will not allow ourselves to be pushed back into a corner once again. There are reasons to be happy, but don't expect to see me grinning in all corners. Mother will be most excited. That was something Naruto could smile about. If you want to influence Konoha's politics, you must learn the art and play a role, Sasuke. Being powerful doesn't guarantee you a position nor does it give you an easy pathway into the Hokage's tower. Konoha's people love you, but would they allow you to become Hokage? That is something you need to think about. It isn't only those in Konoha that influence who becomes Hokage, there are external forces as well. You don't have to worry much about the external forces that could sway things. I used to travel with the Sandaime when he handled some diplomatic talks with those who rule over the Fire Country. I laid the foundations back then and I will reap the fruits soon. Listening to Naruto, Sasuke concluded that Naruto has been playing with the dark forces that twist people's minds long ago when he was still in the academy. When they became shinobi, the blonde rarely went out with the Sandaime, but before then, it had happened. As far as Sasuke was told, the blonde played games with the third Hokage and even trained with him on some occasions. Well, Itachi had warned him, Naruto's greatest weapon wasn't his power but it was his mind. He certainly doesn't flaunt his power around but did go around twisting other people's thoughts to suit his wishes. This was the person he had to deal with. Sasuke was glad he was warned and he wasn't a stupid person. You don't have much interest in Konoha, do you? Would it be wrong to say that the village is just a place you stay in but with no emotional attachment? I'm assuming you're not really looking for me to answer that, Naruto said to Sasuke. I have never held any love for Konoha and had it not been for my mother, I would have never returned to the village. Those people within Konoha, I have nothing for them and really, trying to do them good would be an insult to history. I have always thought for myself, so thinking about what is good for Konoha is out of the question. There are times I have thought that if someone who is strong enough were to attack the leaf, I would only make sure that my family is safe. If the leaf is destroyed, mother would not have any reasons to stay. This did not surprise Sasuke, not at all. He had always known that there was no love between Naruto and Konoha. In fact, he has heard Naruto call the villagers nothing more than lowly monkeys that were not even worth his hatred. The leaf was responsible for his brother's actions, but Sasuke could still not decide what he needed to do with conviction. But what was certain was that he really did need to have some influence in the village if things were going to be fine with the Uchiha clan. Sasuke looked up for a moment before speaking in a bitter tone. Itachi favored you, but more than anyone, it was my father. That man said it more than once that if it was possible, he'd make you Uchiha. This really made me envious of you, because father should have favored me, Itachi should have spent more time with me. Worthless emotion, Naruto said with distaste. But that comes with being a child. You should know that Itachi loved you more than he loved anyone. I could never even replace you in the eyes of your father. You were Itachi's younger brother, and your father's last born. Your father liked me for my intelligence and determination. Already at a young age, I had already experienced much more than what a young person should. There were many days I walked through the streets of the Hidden Leaf, feeling nothing more than contempt. Really, I wanted to just explode and destroy all those looks that glared at me, and see off those voices that called me a demon. But I knew that my mother would be hurt, and she was hurting more than I was. This is why I stopped feeling pain and contempt for those worthless pieces of human flesh. If I hadn't stopped seeing them as humans, tolerating their presence would honestly be a massive task that I cannot handle. In any case, we are at this position that is very delicate, perhaps more for me. But the reality is that I have a child coming along the way and you have a younger brother or sister. This changes things for me, personally, and planning. I have had to adjust some planning and shift things to favor the situation. Sasuke absorbed everything silently before frowning at the thought of Naruto's planning. Naruto was never forthcoming about what he was truly planning. But there were hints. It was just never something that wasn't in Konoha with other hidden villages. Am I going to be involved in any of those plans? Sasuke asked. Naruto nodded. I've always been a bit obsessive about creating a better world for my people. For now, I can say, my family. My thoughts on creating a better Konoha ended with me erasing all the people within it. Those kinds of thoughts have also come to play when dealing with the outside world. But that would be in the extreme situation where all options have been exhausted and nothing has happened. That doesn't include a case where the elemental nations are at war. Should that happen, Naruto was going to benefit massively. He would not actively sow the seeds of war but would not mind making use of it should it happen. I'm trying to connect all the big five. With them connected, the other small villages will be swallowed and we can create a system of cooperation that can eliminate the possibility of needless wars. Humans will always have conflicts, but violence and needless wars don't have to be always the answer to it. There needs to be something, a force that balances things. You know, with the law, if you transgress against it, those who enforce you will punish you. But at this world, hidden villages can do wrong and still get away with it because they are powerful. Both you and I have power, we have the power to do good and horrible things. Say Suna wants to start a war or it plans to invade any other village, we can stop it. A good option would be to tell them to stop it and give reasons why. If they don't listen, they can be eliminated. Hatred can rise from that, but there is no way to avoid hatred. As long as humans have this ability to hate, they will both good and bad. Hatred doesn't necessarily come because someone has been wrong, envy also brings about hatred. I understand what I need to understand about the hidden villages and their cages. Having Suna and Kirigakure behind me doesn't change anything because a powerhouse like Kumo can still topple them. We are powerful but not unbeatable. However, I do have weapons of mass destruction that I learned in case it becomes a need for me to manage the population. Sasuke narrowed his eyes towards the blonde. Those last words made him curious and yet alert. There was no reason in his heart to doubt that Naruto could commit genocide without even thinking twice about it. The blonde had zero emotions to other people. If I hear of a wind disaster striking any village, I will suspect you. Naruto smiled. Whoever said I was capable of creating something like that? You are not reliant on the Kyuubi's power and you just said you have weapons of massive destruction. Your greatest weapon is wind, and you never display its massive destructive capabilities when in battle, Sasuke responded. Then, you are saying things but not how and what. Connections with Kumo and Iwa are the first step. If I can get him to stand on the same page as me, then we can work out something. Of course, you know that I'm not righteous, any method works. Naruto responded with a bit nonchalance. A major force that can get the elemental nations to behave will be Nagato, the leader of the Akatsuki. He has the power to destroy the hidden leaf, so his power will be needed, when necessary. For now, I'm trying to meet up with people from Iwagakure. You should focus on growing your base with Konohagakure. Well, I'd known that things will come to this point. I have connections with Hinata, for the Hyuga clan, and I have no problems with Shikamaru. It's safe to say that he and I have an understanding. The Fire Lord knows me, so I can set up those connections. You seem awfully prepared for someone who doesn't care about Konoha. I still live in Konoha, so I will try things to ensure that the situation around it helps me. Naruto responded. Before I do anything, I do want to solve personal issues, with Yugao, your mother. I must get into grips with that I am going to be a father. Still sounds weird saying it, but that is the reality I must face. I'm sure Yugao has not been the happiest. Naruto appeared to think about it for a moment before responding. Possibly, I can be somewhat careless with how other people feel when it's not convenient for me. But I do acknowledge that things cannot be easy. Admittedly, I find it difficult to understand it at times. Well, you have not been good with dealing with emotions. And you have been. I remember your reaction when Itachi was mentioned was losing your mind, and when you learned that your mother was pregnant, you also might have killed her. Sasuke felt a pang in his sea when Naruto stated those words. He didn't want to hear that from Naruto, not when he was the one responsible. Yes, Naruto had saved the situation, but he had nearly his Chidori right into his mother's gi. It was a bitter memory that he could not forget. Don't remind me, Sasuke said in a flat tone. It was something you tried to beat into me. I should do my best to control myself. I'm no longer a child anymore. Some things we cannot be taught, Sasuke. Try as we may, sometimes someone just needs to take the initiative themselves to learn something. Naruto said. I tried, Itachi tried, and your mother tried. My methods were even brutal, but you still did not learn. Perhaps if you had Danzo as your sensei, but I have reason to believe it would not have worked. You will learn how to control your emotions through your experiences, as I did. Konohagakure, Uzumaki compound. Seeing Mikoto walk into the compound with her head held high didn't make Yugao feel happy at all. She just frowned at seeing the woman. The fact that she was carrying Naruto's child bothered her, and the woman had no shame over it. She would not even take consolation over the fact that her relationship with Kushina had become strained because of it. But with the days rolling one by one, the elder Uzumaki was coming around and more willing to be open with her emotions. Yugao sighed deeply, sitting at the front of the main house. The Uchiha head wasn't alone in her march, she had the Godime Hokage. It was rather strange seeing Tsunade in the compound. She once lived here, but she had yet to set foot since the Uzumaki moved into the compound. What could be so important that Tsunade would come to the compound? Kushina hadn't told her anything regarding a meeting with the Godime. Yugao, the slug princess, glanced down at the former Anbu with a curious mask on her face. You really look different from the kind of person you were when you were in Anbu. Have things changed that much? More or less, Yugao responded. But when you wear that mask, you just become a different person altogether. I'm sure that if I were to return to that world, I will still be the same Anbu I was back then. The kind of life is different now, no more covert missions, just trying to make happiness. Tsunade nodded. There was nothing wrong with that, but the woman felt part of the reason Naruto even brought her this close was because she was an Anbu who could fight for herself. She was by no means a pushover, and for someone who was thorough to be point of obsession over security of his mother, Naruto no doubt felt her presence changed things. He certainly would not have brought someone else who would also need to be protected. That would just be a burden to him. It was interesting that the woman was first introduced to the family by the Sandaime Hokage. The old man had his plans, perhaps she could hijack those plans for her own purposes. No doubt she needed to keep an eye on Naruto. She knew Naruto would not willingly betray Konoha or plot for its downfall over his treatment from the villagers, but there was a chance that he could plot things that would disagree with her vision for the village. There was no doubting that Naruto didn't think for Konoha but for himself and what he felt was best for his mother and his family. This was the reason she was here anyway. The Godime shoved her thoughts to the back of her head and focused on what she was discussing with Yugao. It must be hard trying to create that happiness with what surrounds you. Mikoto, who had been silent till that point, finally spoke. I think that message points at me, she said. Well, you haven't made things easy and I can't say I enjoy life with you around. Yugao said in a hardened tone. You know Naruto, once he has come in terms with everything, the attention he used to give me will be diverted towards you and what you are carrying. He doesn't have a big heart, so his affections are for a couple of people. Your entrance makes me question things here, Yugao said. Of course, she knew that Naruto wouldn't do anything like say she had to move out. Not only would his mother disapprove of it, but he knows it would drill a serious hole in his plans for the protection of his mother. She wasn't going anywhere, but that didn't mean she would be loved. Yugao wanted to be here because she was loved, not because Naruto valued her skills and the emotional connection she offered to his mother. She would not settle for that. For how long would she feel sorry for herself? Mikoto was honestly tired of all these words being said to her, with people looking at her with narrowed eyes and questioning glances. Does she regret her pregnancy? Of course not. She was going to raise her child and she would be happy. Naruto was going to be a part of her life whether Kushina or Yugao liked it. She knew Naruto well, maybe much more than Yugao. Mikoto didn't get pregnant on purpose just so she could keep Naruto close to her. He was a boy she had admired. She had meant it when she said he was her hero. It was because of him that she was alive, that she got to raise Sasuke and was now going to raise another child, with him. She owed a lot to him. Her purpose was to teach him life, happiness, because that was something that Kushina was obviously failing to do. It might not be in the way she wanted, but being a father would not be so bad for Naruto. It would teach him to love more and he would see just how precious life of a person was. There could be no doubt that he didn't value human life, but if this child could teach him to value it, then Mikoto would not have any regrets. Entrance. Mikoto asked rhetorically. I can't say I just entered the scene now. I have been around for a long time. When he was younger, when Fugaku loved him so much that he expressed his wish for Naruto to be Uzumaki. I really don't want to cause trouble for you, Yugao, but I will not apologize for anything, nor will I keep my distance from Naruto. If you feel threatened, do something about it. However, you mustn't forget the kind of person you live with. Tsunade sighed inwardly. She didn't find this amusing at all. But she would not have thought that she would ever see two women facing each other over Naruto. He was hardly a lover boy, far from the person Jiraiya was. Nevertheless, it was because he was going to be a father. This made Tsunade feel she should see both Kushina and Mikoto because she didn't want things becoming a problem in the future. Yugao did not respond to Mikoto, she just glanced over to the Godime Hokage. I will go get Kushina. No need, the Uzumaki said as she walked out to the front, wearing a warm smile on her lips. Please follow me. Naruto will probably return home soon. We don't want him to find us in this situation because you know how curious he will become. Tsunade nodded and she followed Kushina along with Mikoto. They left Yugao sitting by herself. Looking around, Tsunade could not feel as if she did not recognize these walls. Nothing much had changed in terms of the structure, but the atmosphere was different. When they entered a small room, she felt as if she had entered a place of royalty with just how the place was designed. Then again, Naruto has always made himself look superior and of noble birth with how he dressed. Once they had settled down, Tsunade looked between Kushina and Mikoto for a moment before shrugging to get to the main reason she had called the two. A Wagakur. Onoki stared at the letter from the Mizukage requesting a meeting with him. The Sandaime Tsuchikage would not have even bothered in reading it further if she did not put in a strong argument. She seemed to know the kind of person she was dealing with. The woman wanted to meet him at a neutral location, but he wasn't going to do that. He wasn't going to leave his village because of some cage from the weakest in the Great Five called him. Kiri and Suna were in the same group. Really, it should no longer be the Great Five but the Great Three because those villages could not compete with the either Konoha or Kumo. The latter village was the worst case scenario given that it has been building its strength over the last years. Well, even though there were some deals done in the truce with Konoha in the last war, Onoki could not innocently say he hasn't been building his military strength whilst staying away from the spotlight. If any village wanted to start anything with him, he would not mind taking them on. Awagaku wasn't afraid of anyone, not Kumo, and not even Konoha. Thinking of the latter, it has been really quiet over the past years. Since the last war, the Leaf hasn't been making any strides. So much different from its past activities where it was responsible for some wars. Then again, luck hasn't been on the village's side. The village was nearly destroyed, it has lost 2 cages, and the military might of the Uchiha, and suffered from an invasion. It certainly wasn't as strong as it was back then. The thought did make Onoki smile. You're not thinking anything cynical, are you, old man? Kuretsuki said, seeing the look on her grandfather's face. Onoki turned towards the black-haired woman and stared at her for a little while before turning back to the letter from the Mizukage. I was merely thinking about something pleasant, he said, but did not share. Kiri is looking to open dialogues to which we can discuss what we can offer each other, he said. Kuretsuki adopted a thoughtful look on her face as she thought of the hidden mist. It has come out of its civil war, you did have ties with the last cage, right? She asked. Onoki didn't deny it, he had even refused to help the side that ended up winning the war. For him, it wasn't about doing what was right or wrong but what was good for the Hidden Rock. He hadn't cared if they ended up killing each other, it was their mess and certainly nothing that would affect Iwa regardless of the outcome of the civil war. Yes, when he was K, we tried to get communication with whoever was in charge for our interests but the village became closed to the outside world as it rebuilt. Onoki said. He didn't care if the person wanted to ask him regarding this. What do you think? Iwa's interests outweigh anything. That was Kuretsuki's first response. It won't hurt to hear what they have to say, maybe they have something interesting to say. Onoki nodded. That is what I was thinking. He said, but I will not move for her. If that woman wants to say something to me, she will come to Iwa. Understandable, Kuretsuki said with a nod. Kiri is in no position to demand or request anything from us. Konoha. The following day, as Naruto walked through the streets with Sasuke beside him, his thoughts moved between his feelings towards the Leaf and the fake Madara's threat to harm his mother. That had been an intolerable utterance from the masked man and Naruto would not forgive that. He just didn't have to worry about putting wards around his mother for protection. She was safe, for now at least. If he hadn't thought so, he would not have even bothered to go after Orochimaru and even take his time in returning to the village. That didn't mean that he didn't worry though. He did worry and that was why he was plotting on reducing his movements from outside the Leaf. He could send a clone to do the talking whilst he finishes his ace getting rid of the masked shinobi. Naruto spoke to the silent Uchiha beside him. I will give Tsunade a report, if you want to tag along, you're free to do so. If not, tell your mother that I will come to see her later on. Sasuke stopped walking, causing Naruto to do the same. The raven-haired Sharingan user looked up into the clear sky for a couple of moments before speaking. We spoke about getting me into leading positions to be the next Hokage, but there is something that we must sort out before that. It would be stupid for me to think that if an opportunity came, you will not leave this village and restore your clan somewhere else. I know my mother would be a pulling effect but you don't love this village and your stay is dependent on a few things. My brother s much for this village and would have s everyone. When I came back, I wanted to understand why he did it and what was so good about this village that he would go that far. I have not been able to get an answer. If an opportunity comes or things turn around in a way we both cannot accept, I would be more than willing to convince my mother to relocate the Uchiha clan. The Uzumaki have a land that we can use. Our clans have suffered tragically. But we can rebuild and a new land with just the two of us will bring a new beginning. Naruto raised an eyebrow in surprise. He did not think that Sasuke would suggest something like that. He had appeared ready to become the next Cage of the Hidden Leaf but now he was willing to abandon that hope for something else. It wasn't a ridiculous idea from the Uchiha. It was something that had crossed his mind but not with the Uchiha. His thoughts had been him and his mother. He had thrown away the thoughts long ago when his mother stated her desire to remain in the Leaf. But he was missing something. No matter what, Kushina could not possibly forget her real home. Naruto held no attachment towards Azu but he understood it was his ancestral home and if there was any place his mother could move to, it was that ruined land. It was even a better place that would not even have humans living within. His relationship with Mikoto would even simplify things. Connections with the Hidden Leaf would not need to be See them would be plain stupid and foolish. The leaf remained a major power, having it as an ally secured a part of security that a new village would need. Interesting, I will give it some more thought, Naruto said. But will your mother be willing to do so? Will the clan even be willing to do it? Madara tried it once and they refused. It was different then, Sasuke said in a firm tone. What is left is just women and children anyway. The men left are not shinobi, so convincing them won't be difficult. I suggested this just to keep our options open. Naruto nodded. You were heard, he said in a firm tone. My plans to leave Konoha never included a zoo even. I've always thought of some place somewhere away from shinobi. Another thing in moving with the Uchiha meant that he would not be separated from his family. Leaving Konoha would be a big issue though. How does he even get Tsunade to allow an entire Uchiha clan to leave? She would not permit something so disastrous for Konoha. Perhaps teleporting them with an army if clones would do. Yes, it was the best option. Naruto could just see the looks on people's faces when they wake up in the morning only to realize the entire Uchiha compound has been vacated. The idea was somewhat pleasing that Naruto felt it would be justice just to see it in his lifetime. Shaking his head, Naruto shoved the thoughts that were trying to disturb him towards the back of his head. There are some things we should not say in the open, Sasuke. Anbu read lips, he paused as something came to mind. How goes your connection with Anbu anyway? Last time I checked, Tsunade was trying to recruit you into the unit. I'm not going any other squad. We will have our own team, just the two of us, but we will only be called when the situation requires it. Otherwise, we will operate as normal jonins, Sasuke responded before he turned away from the blonde. You can give the Godime the report. I'm not too interested in it. Hokage office. Tsunade took a relaxed posture when Naruto walked into her office. He was much different from Jiraiya, and given that he was a deceitful person, he was surprisingly well-mannered. Perhaps that was why Tsunade felt she could be relaxed when he was here, but that didn't mean that she would lower her guard for him. A mistake like that would be just S. Naruto would no doubt capitalize on it to hang her in daylight. Well, since she has spoken to both his mother and the woman who was going to give him a child, Tsunade could afford to give him much more space. She had been warned to keep it out of their conversations that would have some threats by both his mother and Mikoto. She wasn't alone in the office, she had a certain Nara sitting with her. You took your time away from the village, Tsunade said to Naruto, her hands held together with her eyes staring deeply into Naruto's. The blonde's eyes glanced away from the Godime and faced Shikamaru. He acknowledged the Nara with a nod of his head. Shikamaru responded accordingly. Naruto produced a report and pushed it towards the slug princess before he spoke. He did not sit beside Shikamaru. I was moving around a bit. Long story short, I moved a bit and I was able to complete the mission of getting rid of Orochimaru. That should be pleasing to you, yes. The Godime hadn't expected the two to fail in the mission even though Orochimaru was a Sannin. Naruto and Sasuke were powerful, much more she would expect from teens their age. They were possibly going to be the most powerful shinobi the Leaf could offer. There could be no doubt that as things stand, they were the Leaf's most valued assets. Orochimaru's death was a good in many more ways than one, the kind of things that he did to innocent people despicable. For a moment, the Godime wondered how Jiraiya would take the news, but she just shrugged. He gave up on the Snake Sannin long ago. I have no complaints, Tsunade said in a firm tone. Do you have something to prove that he is S? Naruto shook his head. We did no leave a trace of his existence. I thought it was better that way. I know this may be a problem in collecting the bounty on his head, but if the rules state that unless there is evidence, then there is nothing we can do about it. Tsunade blinked upon hearing those words. She was surprised to hear Naruto talk about money. He did get paid for missions he did, and so did Sasuke, but it was never something they talked about. She had never really taken time to consider the Uzumaki's financial position. Kushina didn't do anything, so Naruto was providing. Yugao had also retired, so she wasn't earning anything. Evidence is when we say we want a person alive and something to prove that the person is indeed S. Tsunade took a long pause. But if I believe your word that Orochimaru did S, then I can give you the bounty. Tsunade's choice of words was interesting. It made Naruto feel the urge to smile, but he did not smile. Do you believe my words? You don't have a reason to lie, and I know you hated Orochimaru, so yes. Tsunade said with a nod. You will get half and the other half will go to Sasuke. The blonde paused before asking. Is that acceptable? It was a team effort, Naruto said with a wave of his right hand. Anything else? The Godime looked at Shikamaru for a moment, wondering if she should speak with him being present. She looked at Naruto as if asking for permission. The Uzumaki didn't give her response, nor did he seem to care that the Nara was present to hear everything. Tsunade decided to just say it wouldn't hurt for Shikamaru to know anyway. There are a few issues, like the Akatsuki, your visits to Kiri, Sunagaku, and how we are going to treat things between you and Mikoto. Naruto raised both his eyebrows, especially regarding the last matter. The latter issue is a personal matter. You don't need to get involved in it. Naruto was firm in his words. I thought you didn't want to get involved in the Akatsuki. I don't know, and although I will act ignorant when you are faced with questions, I want to know what you are planning, especially with what you are doing in Kiri. The Mizukage wasn't forthcoming with the finer details, but she did mention that there was something that she would announce in due time. Mei and the Akatsuki couldn't possibly have anything in common. That woman is a good person. Mei doesn't know anything about Nagato, and I would like to keep it that way, for now at least. Naruto responded. Nagato's only desire is peace, but we are trying to figure how to go about it. I'm sure Jiraiya will be making rounds to the rain in order to get close to his students once more. I don't doubt that. Jiraiya made it clear to me, but it is the fact that you are involved that makes me worried. Naruto smiled, a bit amused. You think too highly of me, he said. I will for the next month be within the village handling personal issues. But I will be available if you need my expertise. That said, Naruto disappeared from the office. With Naruto gone, Tsunade shook her head and turned to Shikamaru, who spoke first. You seem to have a lot going on with him. Tsunade sighed tiredly at the thought. You were once close to him, you should know how his mind works. There is always something with him. She said. True, but depending on who you are, he is harmless, if his relationship with Ino is anything to go by. Shikamaru said. Those two do have a strange relationship. Is it really safe to say he really does care for her? Shikamaru nodded. He does, more so than he lets on. The Nara said. How has your relationship with him been though? I could use your mind in dealing with him. Nothing to speak of, Shikamaru said. I'd really not want to get involved in anything Naruto if I have a choice. Tsunade smiled. I'm glad you put it that way, you don't have a choice. Shikamaru groaned inwardly. What a drag, he thought. Uzumaki compound. You know, when you are not around, I sometimes feel as if my only reason for being here is for the protection of your mother, Yugao said. She was standing at the entrance of their room, hands folded across her chest. Naruto was changing into some ceremonial clothing, painted in a crimson color. The blonde Uzumaki turned towards the former Anbu before looking back at the mirror to see if he looked fine. Once he was done with how he looked, he walked towards Yugao while responding to her statement. I don't blame you for that, Naruto said. The past weeks or months have not been pleasant, you have not been treated fairly by me. You do continue to receive love from my mother, but that isn't enough. When Naruto stopped in front of her, Yugao stared into his eyes, trying to look for something, but he was intentionally masking things. She could see it in his face. This isn't funny. Naruto smiled though. It amuses me when people try to analyze me. He said. You can look all you want, but unless my mask slips or I allow you, you won't find anything. I have had much practice over this that I cannot be easy to read. Yugao sighed. One of these days, I will be able to read you cleanly even though you wear a mask. She said in a firm tone. I will let my Anbu skills do the work. I give you a month. If you fail, we will think of something as reward for me. Naruto said with an index finger raised. Yugao quickly shook her head. I'm not making bets with you. I don't want to know what sort of twisted thing is going to come out of your head. The purple-haired woman said. She then put on a thoughtful look. You have been different with me though. That is because you are not everyone. Naruto was quick to say. You know, your pain in losing your loved one, being shoved over to my side by the Sandaime. It's not false to say I grew to like you. Trust is also a big issue for me. Believe me, I never actually thought I would trust anyone to watch over my mother's back, but I did trust you. That is nothing short of a miracle. I call it growth, Yugao said smiling. But I think I know it better than anyone else what your trust means. Hell, you wouldn't trust even the goddamn Hokage with your mother. I doubt you'd even ask Sasuke to watch over her if you have other options. Naruto raised an eyebrow. You make it sound as if I have some trust issues. Naruto said. But I like to think I have worked out my issues. So you say, Yugao said. Where are you going dressed like that? I'm going to see Mikoto later on, but for now, I want to talk to mother. We will have a heart-to-heart talk later on once I have sorted everything out with those two. My issues with Sasuke have been sorted, so there won't be an incident again, Naruto said. Sai should be back by tomorrow with a member of the Uzumaki. We must sort that out as well. Yugao stared at the blonde for a long minute. As she did, her lips twisted into something of a small sad smile. The thought of Mikoto really didn't place a smile on her lips, it made her frown. She knew there was no way that Naruto was going to abandon the Uchiha, there was just no way and she had to deal with it. Naruto smiled, and placed his right hand on Yugao's right cheek. You needn't feel any negative emotions over this. For sure, it is something we didn't expect, but we just have to live it. Yugao shook her head. You know, I knew Mikoto had an eye for you before we even went on the training trip. There were moments I caught her looking at you strangely. Perhaps I'm the one who is taking you away from her. That is something else, Naruto said. But you are here and she is at the Uchiha compound, that is a fact. With that, Naruto walked away from the woman, heading towards the meeting room to discuss real issues with his mother, issues he has been avoiding to deal with. Uchiha compound. You should say something rather than to keep staring at me like that. Mikoto said to her dear son, who had been staring at her for a couple of minutes. Sasuke blinked once before shaking his head to clear his thoughts. He was thinking a little too much about the things that were inside his head. His conversation with Naruto had led to a few new discoveries and a lot more to think about. His mother was at the center of all things to be considered. Her situation was a little more delicate now given that she was going to have a little one once more. He was going to have a younger brother or sister. Sasuke would rather have a brother. It would be a good thing. Maybe the fact that he was going to be Naruto's kid was going to ruin the mood, but he would have to deal with it. He had plenty of time to do that. Sasuke turned his focus on his mother once more. Unlike him, she appeared to be in a good mood and didn't have any problems. Then again, his mother has always been like this. Have you considered establishing military police once more? We don't have the forces to deal with it, but we can change the way things work. Sasuke said to his mother. Just because that he had a backup plan to leave the Hidden Leaf if things failed didn't mean that he wasn't going to do everything in his power to serve the village. It would be pointless and leave a lot to be desired if he doesn't even try to do anything. Not even Naruto has folded his hands to try to protect Konoha even though he wouldn't blink if it was destroyed. Will you have time for it? You are still registered as Anbu and you still run around with Naruto. Knowing the blonde, there was plenty always in his mind. Naruto can handle his business. Sasuke responded with a shrug. Anbu will only be required when my power is needed. As it stands, I need to contribute to the Hidden Leaf in another way. It will be a good test to see if they can finally acknowledge us. Mikoto stared. The main reason for the attempted coup was because the clan was being pushed away from internal dealings of the village and they were always being looked upon with suspicion. Not even military police force was viewed in a good eye by the general public. Things could be different, but would they get around it without forces of their own to handle the large task? There were kids in the clan and could be trained for the future, but the present would require normal forces from the village's shinobi. I will talk to Tsunade about it. It requires her permission, but I doubt she would refuse. This means that giving you more power though, Mikoto said. With Naruto present in the shadows, the Godime would be inclined to think twice about it. What of the young ones? I'm not a good teacher and the Shinobi Academy is useless, Sasuke said. Why don't you ask Naruto to do it? He was basically the sensei of our team and he understands the Sharingan much more than I do, but I think that he would be a good teacher. Why don't you ask him yourself? Sasuke shook his head. He will come with twisted ideas if it comes from me. I don't want him thinking he is raising his own little army. If you ask him, he will be restrained. I will try, Mikoto said. Why were you staring? I know it is early, but what is going to happen once your child is born? Is it going to live with us or with the Uzumaki? Are we even going to call it Uchiha or Uzumaki? Mikoto blinked. I have never given that a thought, what do you think? It is a boy, she should be called Uchiha and should live with us. That is going to be a big issue with Naruto. I don't think he will agree to something like that. Mikoto said. You want to be close to your younger brother. Sasuke nodded. Meanwhile with Naruto. How long has it been since he just sat with his mother and they talked? Naruto could remember the last day this happened clearly well. It has been too long since he just settled with his mother in peace, talking as mother and son. They had missed those moments, especially now with people moving in around them. If Naruto said he didn't miss the days he used to have breakfast, lunch and dinner with just his mother, he would be lying. He did miss those pleasant days he felt as if the world ended with just his mother. Things change, people grow, he grew and his understanding of the things of the world grew. Most of which caused the changes that have happened now. They had even left that home of theirs, but that place would always hold some sentimental value. Something like that, was it really like him? Naruto shook his head. Well, he has always been emotional regarding things that came to his mother. He had been quick to display his anger towards anyone who came from behind on his mother. The third had warned him about it, saying it was dangerous for him to do something like that because it was clearly spelling out what his weakness was. Certainly, he had pushed his emotions all over his mother that he didn't feel for anything else. But things have changed. Mother, I really miss the little moments we had, when it was just the two of us against the world. We comforted each other and even though the village hated us, we were happy, just the two of us. I cannot help that these other people who have come into our lives have ruined that kind of life, Naruto said with a small sad smile on his lips. I'm sure Yuga will not be happy learning that you think that way, Kushina said with a smile. Naruto paused to imagine Yugao's reaction upon hearing that. He stopped short of being amused by what he pictured. Well, it was always just the two of us. We had connections with the Uchiha, but there was a place that they never reached. You have grown, Naruto. Regardless, you will always be my child, Kushina said. I haven't been the best since the issue with Mikoto came out, she sounded sad over that. Naruto shook his head. I have to say, never for once did I think that I would disappoint mother. I was confused, lost, and sad that I would disappoint mother. The feeling was very foreign and yet terrifying. That quarrel with Sasuke was perhaps compounded by my own confusion as well, Naruto said in a low tone. I'm sorry that I disappointed mother. Sasuke's mother has always been a bit special to me, ever since she told me something I longed to hear. I knew what I was getting myself into, I should have done better but I did not. I should not have blamed Mikoto, Kushina said with a shake of her own head. I know my son isn't innocent and likes manipulating people. I should have known that Mikoto could never take advantage of you if you did not consent to it. You slept with her because you decided to do it. I should have known that, but I felt betrayed. It wasn't just by Mikoto but by my own son. That was the first time Kushina said those words to Naruto and honestly, it made him feel down a bit but he did not let it show on his expression. He was going to allow his mother to speak her thoughts without giving her anything that made feel she had gone too far. Besides that, his mother knew him better. She had just mentioned the less appealing side of him with such simplicity that you'd think she was talking about something that was just mischievous but it was a serious matter. Kushina had never been willing to confront that side of him head on. It was curious that she would. Maybe I did go too far you telling you that you can't be with Mikoto, Kushina said. When emotions overwhelm us, we say and think too many things, mother. I also thought it was right and that the fact that Mikoto was carrying my child should be kept secret from everyone even after she has given birth. Naruto said sadly. But that was just the confusion thinking. Something like that can't happen. Regardless of where it came from, your grandchild is going to be innocent from anything, and I think my mother wouldn't want to be away from that. You make me feel old when you say grandmother, Naruto. Naruto laughed for a second. Mother will always be beautiful and there will never be a woman who is better than her, not before my eyes or heart. If I wasn't used to this, I would say this was weird. Kushina said with a shake of her head. What do you want to do, Naruto? I don't know mother, but I must prepare myself to be a father. Naruto was firm on that. I don't know how I will handle that but I will count on mother to support me, as she has always throughout my life. You know I will never leave you, Naruto, Kushina said. She sighed, thinking about what she had planned for her son. You know, I'd thought you'd really marry Temari, and if that failed, Ino. What did you do to Temari, Naruto? I cannot say she loved you, but she really did like you for all the support you gave her during those days. Naruto was silent for a long minute before responding. I don't think she hates me, maybe it is fear of me. I was close to K them all during the invasion. If they had known about it, I would have K them. Temari understands that. Mother, you know your son isn't innocent. I have never told you how Gaara came to be Hokage, but it happened because your son made it possible. For a moment, Kushina just stared at Naruto. If Temari was wary of Naruto, then it was because she understood he was dangerous and he wasn't above twisting anyone who wasn't his mother. No one was safe, she must have come to that conclusion. Even so, Kushina didn't think that Naruto would go that far with those children, not after everything. If he spared their lives over something that put her life in danger, then he would not do anything harmful. But it has done Suna good that you did so, Kushina said, with a smile and eyes closed. She opened them a moment later. Why do you not try to make things clear with her, Naruto? I really did see those children as my family, Naruto, and I had accepted Temari as my daughter. I will try, mother, Naruto said with a nod. Ino will always be part of our lives, mother. She was my only friend. He would never say it aloud to anyone, but he valued the blonde much more than the woman sleeping next to him. It was because of that girl that he wasn't lonely when his mother wasn't around. It was because of that girl that he learned what it meant to have a friend. A new member to our family was supposed to have been brought to the village by the time I returned. I don't know what is taking so long, but tomorrow or the day that follows, he should be back with her, Naruto said. This will mean we will be having another plate at the dinner table. Finally, Kushina was excited just to know that the dream was becoming a reality. They would have 3 Uzumakis, and there was no telling if they could find more somewhere in this world of shinobi. Kushina was really happy for this news. Sai, when am I going to meet him? Naruto stared at his mother, unblinking. Why would she want to see Sai? He had no business with her. If she was talking about someone like Ino or Hinata, then yes, he could understand. He hadn't complained when she said when wanted to see the Hyuga, but Sai was a different matter altogether. Besides that, he did have an ulterior motive for allowing Hinata to see his mother. His work with Sai was different. It had to do with dangerous materials. Not to mention the teen was a former Foundation shinobi. Such a person should not be close to his mother. He could make an allowance with Karen, even though she has been following Orochimaru behind because she was Uzumaki and there was no evidence to suggest that she was as evil as the Sannin. Why do you want to meet Sai, mother? She shouldn't even be asking him about this when he spoke about it in the same breath as with Karen. Yugao tells me he is your friend, and has been training Ino. I want to meet the boy you'd trust so much that you'd let him train Ino. You are even having him fetch our family member, but you can't let your mother see him. Naruto was certain this wasn't just it with his mother, there was something she wasn't telling him. Yugao has mentioned him to you. Why are you being like this, Naruto? You don't want your mother to be close to your friends. Naruto's response came after a couple of moments. Mother, you know I don't like sharing you. Sai doesn't even need a mother, he is fine. I will be the judge of that, Kushina responded, a hardened tone. You will bring Sai to me and I will speak to him alone. Naruto held staring contest with his mother, but the woman did not waver. Fine, he said with a sigh. Even though he was tolerant of it these days, Naruto could not deny that he dealt some negative feelings at seeing his mother mothering someone else. She was his mother alone and there would be no one else. A thought that amused him was that if they had been 2 from his mother, would he even be envious of his own sibling? Naruto doubted things would have turned like that. It wasn't going to happen, so there was no need to even think too much about it. Are you still going to be talking like that even when you are a father, Naruto? Kushina asked. She was wearing an amused mask on her lips. It was a funny thought just imagining Naruto crying out of her while his child was crying out for him. Whether I turn old or become a father, you will always be mother. There will be nothing that can change that, Naruto said in a firm tone. Kushina nodded. Her son would always be her son. Well, regardless of who comes into our lives, there will only be one Naruto whom I gave birth to. No one can ever take your place in my heart, Naruto. She says that, but the feeling you get really doesn't disappear. Naruto wasn't saying his mother was lying to him. No, he was saying even though he was conscious of the fact that there would only be one Naruto, it still didn't make him happy seeing her with other people. I know that, mother, Naruto said. He paused, thinking of a way he could break the news regarding his thoughts toward a zoo. Once we get enough funds, I'm thinking of rebuilding a part of a zoo. Konoha will still be home, but we cannot forget a zoo. We can all go to visit the village every now and then. That was a safe way of easing the issue to his mother. If anything happens in Konoha, there would be no problem of trying to adapt to a new home because they would be used to a zoo already. Kushina stared at Naruto's eyes for a long minute, looking as if she was trying to figure something out. Konoha will never be in your heart, will it, Naruto? She asked sadly. It can't be helped. If we are going to restore the Uzumaki clan, it will be better that way. Naruto nodded before standing up. He slowly walked over to his mother and went down on both his knees. He placed both his hands on her shoulders before speaking. Mother, I am many things, but before everything, I am your son and you are my mother. I want to be a son you will be proud of, but mother, when you give me such a look, it makes me feel curious. What are you thinking, mother? Kushina did not blink even though Naruto was staring at her so intently and so close. She smiled as she offered her response. For so long I ignored the fact that you are capable of bad things. I chose to focus on your love for me. I should have confronted the truth. You are my son, Naruto, and I know you well. I can no longer ignore that you always have other intentions in the things that you do. Your visits to Kiri, there are something. The fact that you never quite grew to like Konoha does bother me, but it is something I should have guarded against. I was busy crying back then while you had to be the man. You grew up so fast, but I cannot say I am not proud that you have become a capable shinobi. Your father would be proud. At the same time, I'm saddened that you grew too fast. Whatever that you are planning, my hope is that it is for the good, Naruto. I could never do anything that would make you feel ashamed to be my mother, Naruto said. My visits to Kiri are towards plans to gather the elemental nations for a peaceful world. That is all I desire. Is it for you or for me? Does it matter, mother? It does, Kushina said, pulling Naruto over to a tight hug. You should do things for yourself, Naruto. Being alive means following your dreams. Your dream mustn't end with you dying for your mother. You are going to start a family of your own. Your child must come before your mother. Be selfish for once in your life, Naruto. You cannot be AS for the rest of your life. That isn't what I desire for you. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.